So I'm really excited about this, just what you said, that intuitive life where I follow the impulses as they come up. But I notice that I have like this constant chatter in my mind that I don't really pay attention to.
Doesn't matter unless the chatter is about things you don't want and makes you feel uneasy while it chatters. Because this receptive mode is going to bring thoughts to you. And when you get good at it, it's going to bring a lot of thoughts. You'll get so good that you'll be multitasking vibrationally in thought and with words and with actions all over the place, because a lot of things really dovetail together well. So as long as you feel like you're in the flow and it feels good, then don't try to slow it down. Let's talk just for a moment about the difference between this early thought coming out of meditation that doesn't have much momentum going, but it's pure, and a thought that you've allowed to gain momentum. Feel the difference between the thought that has momentum, which is one of exhilaration, and the thought that doesn't have much momentum yet, which is one of satisfaction. Now let's talk for a moment about the difference between thinking a thought and receiving a thought. You want to be in that place where you're receiving until the momentum is such that you can't tell if you're thinking it or receiving it, because the universe is dovetailing with you with all kinds of different things. Yesterday, Esther and her sister were in Esther's hotel room and they ordered room service. And then they sat out. It was going to be a while, 45 minutes they were told about. So they sat out on the balcony and overlooked the golf course and bask in the deliciousness of the air and the beauty and a few people. It was nice to catch up with each other. They were in a very blissful state, and neither one very much aware of the time. And then Esther said, I wonder if we can hear them knock from out here, even though she'd left the sliding door open. And she went to the door, and the girl with the cart was poised to knock. And Jeannie and Esther stood there. They opened the door, and her knock almost came into the room because the timing of it was such. And they laughed because Esther knew that she intuitively knew that this was happening. That's what life is like when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Anything that matters to you, you have awareness of it, you see. And so that's how you tell how well you're doing in this. So you've meditated and you're feeling satisfied, and soft, gentle thoughts are beginning to flow. But you're feeling a little anxiety that they're not bigger, bolder, more exciting thoughts. Well, then you've already introduced resistance. But let's say you didn't do that. So you're just feeling satisfaction, and then another thought that satisfies you comes, and then another thought that satisfies you comes. At what point would what you just described be part of that?
Right? There is a thought that comes, and then immediately there is like the logical, like, well, we were planning to do this.
So what you might be describing is the difference between a thought that you received and then a thought that you thought.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
We know this may sound crazy to you, but you're going to get this. So you receive a thought because the cells of your body are wanting some sort of replenishment. So you have the impulse to go. And when you go, the first thing you see is what your inner being wanted, usually, if you've been tuned in to any degree. But then you override it with belief. And so when that happens, just laugh at yourself, and then on Tuesday, go meditate again. And by Thursday or Friday of next week, you'll probably be eating the beets.
Yeah.
We're playing with you a little bit, but that really is how it goes. This is the big question that you're posing here. How do I stop second guessing myself with all the habits of thoughts that I have? How do I really allow myself to follow through with my truly inspired thoughts? Well, the truth of it is, you can't all of a sudden stop thinking. That's equivalent to the lobotomy that we were talking about earlier. You're not going to do that, but you can be nicer to yourself about it, and you could laugh about it, and you could say to yourself, and in time you will, well, I have the impulse for that, so I think I'll follow through with my impulse. We would become more inspired, impulsive. But there's something else that's happening here in this conversation, and that is, you can't compare a thought that you're receiving to a thought that you're thinking unless you've been receiving quite a few thoughts and can feel the difference. You're just going to have to bite the bullet and meditate in order to understand what we're talking about. You're just going to have to show yourself what the difference is between an inspired thought where your inner being, who knows exactly where you are in relationship to what you want, and is offering you a thought, a path of least resistance thought that will get you closer to what you want. You're just going to have to do that in order to trust it, because we don't want you to just take our word for it. We're just teaching you the process that then you can apply in order to understand the power of your connection. Esther's been asking us, and we may talk about some of it here today, because she's gotten really good. She knows that all she has to do is quiet her mind and off we go. But she doesn't want to write a book every time she quiets her mind. In fact, she doesn't really ever want to write another book. She will receive the inspiration to write a book, and she may someday have little enough resistance that will feel like a really good idea all the way out, instead of having parts of 17 books all ready for conversation. But when Esther sits to meditate, what she's reaching for is that satisfied thought that then leads to an even more satisfied thought that leads to something that's really a feeling of enthusiasm. And what she is discovering is the more she allows herself the luxury of not taking action unless it feels inspired, then the more remarkable and delicious and magical her days are. Here's something else to consider, especially good for you. So Esther was contemplating with a friend the subject of giving and receiving. Her friend was talking about finding the perfect gift for someone. And so after they talked for an hour about it on the telephone, Esther sat to write with us about it. And we explained to her what we talked to you about earlier. Step 1, 2, 3. Step 1 is life causes you to ask for something. Step 2 is already answered for you, because source energy answers what you're asking for. And then step 3 is you get in the receptive mode. Well, if you hang around in the receptive mode on a really regular basis, you discover that source is often inspiring you to the step 2 part of somebody else's equation. You just end up in the right place at the right time to answer that question, or provide that knowledge, or catch someone when they're falling, or offer somebody some money just when they need some. It's really, really wonderful to, in the receiving mode, move from step 2 to 3. In other words, you get to be the source energy part. We've talked to you about how birds are often messengers for you. When you're watching nature and feeling the beauty of something, very often one of your dearly departed will inspire a bird to come and sit next to you and give you a message. And so, isn't it fun to get to be that bird sometimes, who gets to be at the right place at the right time? And how else are things happening? Isn't that the way creativity is, you see? And isn't there a tremendous amount of satisfaction in that? This receptive mode is the key to what you've been looking for. It's why we've been calling this the art of allowing almost from the beginning. The art of allowing your connection to the broader part of you that can see a broader view, who knows where you are in relationship to everything that you want, knows exactly where you are in relationship to everything you want, and is offering guidance about how to get there. Not because you need to be all the way there to be satisfied, but because you need to be moving in the direction of what you're wanting in order to be satisfied. You're not ever going to be complete. You're not ever going to be finished, but you can be satisfied. And so the sooner you get to that place where you're willing to let the vibration of it be enough, you don't need the manifestation of it. The feeling is enough. You don't need the manifestation of it. Then the inspiration comes, and then life just gets richer and fuller, and you're playing with more people, and you're having more fun, and you're saying more things, and you're doing more things, and you're having more experiences, and life is richer and fuller and richer and fuller. And the alignment is a world of replenishment. It's a world of renewal.
And it just flows. You just follow it.
Sometimes you may be ready to make a list. And when you do, that list will be exciting as you make it, and even more exciting as you fulfill it. Here is our definition of the perfection of desire within you. I'm without resistance, and my inner being is whispering to me my best path right now. It's the best because it's what I'm ready for, and I can have it now. I'm ready for that, and it will satisfy me. And then I'll be ready for that, and it will satisfy me. And so then your friends say, well, when are you going to get to the end? Never. That can't possibly be satisfying. Oh, but it is. It is. Because this is as much as I've allowed myself to know that I'm able to receive, so it's got to be enough. But then you start getting the hang of it, and then you start feeling invincible, and then you start asking for more, and then you start expecting more, and then you start moving faster, and then it starts being more fun, and then you start having clarity most of the time, and then you start feeling exhilarated most of the time, and then you start attracting other people that are like you, that are running around with you. And then there's this exponential thing that happens as more of you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, or playing together, and then